The dusty evening sun hung low above the highway, painting the world in a faded gold. Cars hummed by, trucks roared past, but the little figure standing near the edge of the fuel station went unnoticed by almost everyone. A small boy, no more than 8, stood beside a rusty, tiny bicycle with bent handlebars and a chain that looked ready to fall apart. His cheeks were streaked with dirt, his hair messy, his shirt 2 sizes too big. He held the bicycle with both hands as if it were the last thing he owned. People walked around him without a glance. Some looked and then quickly looked away. A few smiled sympathetically but kept walking. The boy did not call out to anyone. He just stood there, nervously shifting weight from one foot to another, looking as if courage was something he had borrowed for a moment and might lose at any time. The silence around him broke suddenly when the rumble of powerful engines rolled in from the highway. 4 large motorcycles entered the fuel station, each one shining chrome and steel. The men riding them were impossible to ignore. Broad shoulders, leather jackets, thick gloves, tattoos on their arms. They moved with the calm confidence of men who were used to being noticed. The logo on their jackets read Iron Souls MC. The leader, a tall man with a silver beard and ice blue eyes, parked first. His name was Ryder. Behind him were Tank, built like a mountain, Ghost, quiet like a shadow, and Mac, the youngest, always with a hint of mischief in his smile. They had been on a long ride from another city and stopped here to rest before heading to the next town. As the engines died, the little boy flinched at the loud sound, his knuckles whitening on the bicycle's handle. Ryder noticed him immediately, something about the boy's posture, the tightness of his jaw, the way he stood alone, it pulled at him. Ryder got off his bike and removed his helmet, revealing a calm, stern face softened by curiosity. Tank stretched his arms, cracking his neck. "Man, I need a drink. I'm frying in this heat." But when he followed Ryder's eyes, he saw the boy too. Well, look at that. Ghost leaned back on his bike, taking in the scene silently. Mac pursed his lips and muttered, "Kid looks scared stiff." Ryder approached slowly, careful not to intimidate. The boy lowered his head as the biker neared, staring at his worn-out shoes. "Hey there," Ryder said gently. "You okay, kid?" The boy swallowed hard. He shook his head. Then, gripping the rusty bicycle, he whispered, barely audible, "Sir, buy my bike. Please." Ryder blinked. "Buy your bike." The boy nodded, eyes filling with tears he tried hard to hide. "Please, sir, Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." Tank's expression changed immediately, his rough demeanor softening. Ghost straightened slightly. Mac looked from Ryder to the child, his smile gone. Ryder crouched so he was at eye level with the boy. "What's your name?" "Aram," the boy said, voice trembling. "Aram, how old are you?" 8. "And you want to sell your bike?" Aram nodded again. "Mommy is sick. We don't have money. I tried to get work. Nobody gives me work. So, if you buy my bike, maybe Mommy can eat tonight." Ryder looked at the bike. It wasn't worth more than a couple of dollars, but the desperation in the boy's voice made the metal seem heavier with story and suffering. Max stepped closer, trying to keep his voice calm. "Kid, where's your mom now?" Aram hesitated, then pointed toward a cluster of small, rundown houses behind the fuel station. "We live there, but she's lying down. She hasn't gotten up all day." Tank looked at Ryder. Ryder looked back. That was enough. They were bikers, yes, rough, loud, tattooed, but they had their own rules, their own code, and one of them was simple. You don't walk past someone who needs help. Ryder stood slowly. "All right, Aram, we'll go see your mom. Lead the way." Aram hesitated. Fear flashed across his face. "But I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering us." Ryder said, "Come on, show us." The boy nodded and pushed the old bicycle, walking ahead. The bikers followed behind him, a strange procession but one that felt right. People at the fuel station stared at the sight, big, intimidating bikers being led by a small, trembling boy, but none said a word. They walked down a narrow alley, passing cracked walls and broken windows. Chickens clucked nearby. Laundry hung on lines between roofs. The place smelled of dampness, dust, and the tiredness of life lived on the edge. Aram stopped outside a small, single-room shack. The door was open. Inside, they could see a woman lying on a thin mattress. Her skin was pale, her lips dry, her hair tangled. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, but life had carved exhaustion into her face. She tried to sit up as the shadows of the bikers filled the doorway, alarm flickering in her eyes. Aram, who, she began, struggling, "Mommy." Aram rushed to her side. "They're nice. I want to sell my bicycle so you can eat." The woman gasped softly, horrified. "No, Aram, no. That's your only toy. You can't." But Aram shook his head fiercely. "Mommy, I don't care. You need food." The woman's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away in shame. Ryder took a slow step forward. "Ma'am, we don't mean any harm. We just want to help. What's going on?" The woman hesitated. She wiped her face quickly, trying not to look weak. I'm fine." Tank muttered. "She ain't fine. She looks like she'll faint any second." Ryder lifted a hand, signaling Tank to stay quiet. "Miss, please, let us help." She finally let her guard down. She looked at her son, then at the strangers in leather jackets and heavy boots. Her voice cracked. "My name is Zara. I lost my job 2 weeks ago. The landlord took our electricity. Then he took my sewing machine because I couldn't pay rent. We had some food, but it's finished." Aram whispered, "Mommy gave me her food last time. She hasn't eaten, not even a little bit." Zara pressed her lips together, ashamed. Ghost spoke softly for the first time. "Who took your sewing machine?" "The landlord." Zara nodded. "He said I owed 3 months' rent. Took everything he could grab." Mac clenched his fists. "That's theft," he said. "If I complain." Zara continued, "He'll throw us out." "I don't have anywhere to take Aram, so I stayed quiet." Ryder exchanged a look with his men. They didn't need words. They all knew what needed to be done. Ryder knelt by Zara, his voice steady. "Zara, we're going to help you, but first you need food." Before she could protest, Tank was already heading back to the fuel station shop. Mac followed him. Ghost remained silent, standing near the door like a watchful guard. Ryder turned to Aram. "Kid, you keep your bike. I'm not buying it." Aram's face twisted in confusion. "But, Mommy, your bike stays with you," Ryder said. "We'll take care of the rest." Tears spilled down the boy's face. "Thank you, sir." 10 minutes later, Tank and Mac returned with 2 large bags of groceries: rice, bread, fruit, canned food, milk, even a box of biscuits. Aram's eyes widened. He had never seen so much food in one place. Zara pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbing quietly. Tank placed the bags on the counter gently, like they were fragile treasures, food for a week, maybe more. Mac added, "And I'm going back for vitamins, medicine, and clean water. Ghost, come with me." The 2 men left again. Ryder stood and stretched his back. "Zara, we're going to talk to your landlord." "Please don't," she cried. "He'll throw us out." "He won't," Ryder said. "We promise." She shook her head desperately. "You don't understand. He's cruel." "Miss," Tank said gently. "You don't know us, but we don't let bullies win. Not ever." Ryder placed a hand on Aram's hair. "Take care of your mom while we're gone. We'll be right back." Aram nodded bravely. The bikers walked back outside. They didn't speak on the way to the landlord's house. Their faces were set like stone. They found the landlord sitting on a wooden chair outside his larger, better-kept house. He was a stout man with a thick mustache, an arrogant smirk, and a phone in his hand. "What do you want?" he asked, annoyed. Ryder stepped forward. "We heard you took a sewing machine from Zara." "And," the man said, shrugging, "she owes rent. I take what I want." Tank inhaled deeply, trying to remain civil. "You can't take someone's livelihood as payment for rent." "She owes 3 months," the landlord snapped. "If she's too weak to work, that's her problem." Mac folded his arms. "She has a kid." The landlord rolled his eyes. "Not my problem." Ryder's voice turned calm. "Too calm. It is now. You're going to return the sewing machine." "And why would I do that for you?" the landlord sneered. Ryder took a step closer. "Because it's the right thing to do." "I don't care about right," the man said, laughing. "You bikers think you can scare me. I've dealt with worse." Tank cracked his knuckles. "I doubt that." Ghost, who had returned silently with Mac, spoke up. "Landlord, listen, we're not here to fight. We're here to fix things, but if you want trouble, we can do that too." The landlord swallowed, suddenly noticing just how big Tank was. And how quiet Ghost looked, which was more dangerous. He shifted in his seat. Ryder leaned down, staring straight into his eyes. "Give back what you stole, and we'll give you rent money for the month." The landlord blinked. You'll pay, we'll pay," Ryder said, "but only after you return everything, and you will leave Zara and Aram alone. No threats, no harassment." The man hesitated, calculating risk. These were not men he wanted to cross. Slowly, he nodded. "Fine, I'll return it." Ghost and Mac followed him inside. A few minutes later, they came out carrying the sewing machine and a bag filled with Zara's other belongings. Pans, blankets, even a small fan the landlord had taken. Tank handed over cash to settle 1 month's rent. The landlord held out his hand for more, greed flashing in his eyes, but Tank ignored him and walked away. The bikers returned to Zara's home, carrying her belongings. When she saw her sewing machine, she pressed her hand to her chest and fell to her knees, sobbing with relief. Aram hugged it as if it were a treasure. "Thank you, thank you," she repeated again and again. Ryder smiled. "We just gave you back what was yours." Zara wiped her tears. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't," Max said. "Just get better." She smiled weakly, touched by their kindness. The bikers stayed for more than an hour, cleaning her home, setting things in place, making food for her and Aram, checking her pulse, making sure she drank water. Zara looked stronger with every passing minute. Before leaving, Ryder handed Zara a folded envelope. "Inside is enough money for 3 months' rent and groceries. Use it wisely." Zara gasped. "Sir, I can't. It's not charity," Ryder said. "It's help you needed. One day, when you're strong again and running your sewing work, help somebody else. That's how life works." Zara nodded, tears shining in her eyes. As the bikers walked back to their motorcycles, Aram ran after them. He hugged Ryder tightly. "Thank you, sir. I'll never forget you." Ryder ruffled his hair. "Take care of your mom, champ." Aram saluted them proudly. "Yes, sir." The bikers rode away, engines roaring, leaving behind a little boy and his mother who finally had hope. A few days later, Zara's sewing work began again. Neighbors heard her machine humming through the night. Aram went to school. The landlord never bothered them again. And every time Zara pressed her foot on the sewing machine pedal, she whispered a prayer of gratitude for the men on roaring motorcycles who had shown up on the day her hope was almost gone.